What's up, everyone out there in YouTube land? It's me, Perry Lovewhistle, and I'm back on Acadian in Project Quarm. And as you can see, not only am I hanging out in Nagafin's lair, but I have made it to level 46, which means I can now raid. So I've joined the Raiding Guild Intervention, and I've already been on a couple of raids, as you can see by my very nice loam-encrusted robe. I actually just picked this up today. There are some key differences between raiding in Project Quarm and raiding on Project 1999 that I think it's worth discussing, which is why I have come to Nagafin's lair. Now, these changes I think are primarily to reduce drama between raiding guilds, because when you have a limited amount of mobs that drop really high quality loot and long spawn timers, you end up with really long camps and people fighting over who gets to kill whatever the Afridi. Secrets has made most of the raid zones instanced. So there is the regular zone, which I am currently in, the Nagafin's lair zone, which operates like normal. Normal spawn timers, normal loot, normal experience. But if I step outside, there's a nice little plane of knowledge book right here, which won't do anything for me right now because I'm not in a raid. But if I was in a raid and someone with me was able to spawn the instance, then I would be able to go into the Intervention Guild's instanced Nagafin's lair. And the difference between the instanced version and the regular one, on top of the fact that it doesn't interfere with the normal spawn timers and everything, is, first of all, everything is on a really long respawn. I think it's 18 hours, but I'm not sure. It's long enough that you don't have to worry about repops during your raid, but short enough that you still have to do it each raid. You know, it's less than a day. So you have to fight your way back to whatever mob you're looking for. In the event of Nagafin's lair, that's either the giants or Nagafin, the dragon at the back. If people show up late, they don't have to worry about somebody coming back and invising them and fighting back through all the mobs. They can just go back through the empty zone to catch up to everybody else. It makes it so much easier and more stress-free. The downside is you don't get nearly as much experience. I think there has to be some experience, I think, for the code to even work, but the mobs in the instanced version are at next to nothing. Once you get split up in a raid, it doesn't even matter. Oh, and there is the raid window, which doesn't exist in Project 1999. It'll be either Alt-R or Alt-Q, depending on what your video card is. The raid window means that you can have up to 12 groups, all as part of a raid. You can communicate within the raid, and you can see everybody in the raid. So it makes it easier when you're finding class-specific buffs. It makes it easier for organization of a raid. There's lots of ins and outs to it, and I just learned about it here because I never played EverQuest in Era when the raid window existed. And there's still things that I'm learning about it. I was put in charge of building a raid one time and completely screwed it up because raid inviting and group inviting work completely differently. But it also splits the experience up among everyone in the raid. So you don't have an XP group anymore, which is either the group with the most wizards or the group with the most rogues, depending on the era. But I do want to take some time to talk about where these books are, because for some raids it's not quite as obvious, and some of the other changes that have been made as a result of adding instance raids. So obviously, here is the Nagafin's lair book. This one's very obvious. You have to go past it just to get into Nagafin's lair the normal way. And up here in Permafrost, the other goblin/dragon dungeon, where currently none of the ice giants are camped, but apparently I can't defeat them. I tried to take advantage of the fact they weren't camped and see if I could take one down, and I couldn't quite make it. Maybe level 47. But just outside of the fortress and south is the book for permafrost. Looks like somebody didn't make it. Just like Nagafin's lair, this allows you to get through all of the goblins just once to the ice giants inside and Lady Vox herself. Now, like I said, these ones are obvious. And for Kedg Keep, the third and probably most frustrating for many reasons boss dungeon in Classic EverQuest. One of the reasons is the difficulty just finding it. It's a good thing I've got that fishbone earring. How did I get all the way over here? I thought it was straight out from Unrest. Is it not straight out from Unrest? Of course, it's raining and it's the middle of the night, so right now is the least likely time an erudite is going to find Kedg Keep. And also, it doesn't matter. The location of the book, to me, seemed unintuitive. I would have expected the book to be here by Unrest, because this is the traditional Kedg staging area. You get everyone up here, you group up, you get everybody their water-breathing stuff, and you jump down into the hole. The book is obviously not here. It is actually over on the island in the middle of the cauldron, on the little bit of peninsula that sticks out towards Kedg. And I will say that this was the first instance I ever got a chance to go into, and the fact that Secrets made it instant was something I could get benefits from immediately. Kedg goes from being this absolute nightmare corpse recovery fest to being frankly just a pretty easy, albeit sometimes confusing, three-dimensional maze. And when you take out how terrible the dungeon itself is, Finnegal is even not that terrible of a boss. We managed to knock him out with like 7 people, one of whom was level 38. So Kedg has become a pretty doable dungeon with this system. And actually, I think has benefited maybe the second most from the instant system, the first being one of the planes. So now we have to discuss where the books are for the planes. And of the 3, one of them is in an obvious location. And that is, of course, the Plane of Fear. At the back of the Spectre Caves, where I have pretty much been living for the last 2 months, you have the portal that zones you into the Plane of Fear, guarded by Cindrila. And if you turn left, get around these dry bone skeletons, you get to the standard Plane of Fear staging area. This corner back here, which is enough out of the way that the dry bone skeletons don't aggro you. Not that they're dangerous at all, but they are annoying. You've got your Plane of Fear book. I have not gotten a chance to go to the Plane of Fear yet, but I know that it has also benefited immensely from the instant setup. But the other 2 planes you're supposed to only get to by having a wizard teleport you there. At level 46, I got Altar Plane Sky and Altar Plane Hate. Each of those are a group port that take me to the plane of sky or the plane of hate. And they require a reagent, a gem, that I have to get at a specific place. The sky one is sold in Iridan, and the hate one is sold, obviously, in the Dark Elf city of Neriak for about 125 platinum apiece. Of course, in Project Quarm, this is only necessary if we're going to race during an earthquake, which we probably wouldn't even do for Sky. We'd probably do for Hate, because there's not a lot worth racing for in Sky. Most of it is available instanced, which I'll talk about in a lot more detail in another video. So I would probably need one Hate stone at some point to take part in Hate races. But the instance books for them are not necessarily at intuitive places. Here in the Oasis of Mar, on the east shore of the lake, facing Miragul's tower, you've got your Hate book, surrounded by palm trees, which I'm pretty sure were also added for this. Why the Plane of Hate is connected to Oasis of Mar doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, unless Secrets is doing a lore shout-out, since this was the sprawling High Elf city of Tekish, and Inaruk hates High Elves, which is also why Miragul built a tower in the middle of the Oasis of Mar. Or it could just be for convenience sake. It makes North Row a convenient place to start getting raids together. Teleport to North Row and head down to Oasis for the Plane of Hate. Or head north to East Freeport. And levitate up this gypsy tent onto the wall around the city, which doesn't seem like somewhere that you should be able to get to the Sky Book. Now, it makes sense to have the Sky Book be in East Freeport. When you jump or fall off the plane of sky, you land out there in that water. But why it was put up here is kind of beyond me. But the last time I was up in Sky, they told me that apparently you can get up here without levitate if you make the jump from this over to here. And since I'm making a video about this, it only makes sense that I'm going to finally succeed at doing this, because it takes a lot less time if you have to jump out and come back to invite somebody into the raid, if you can make this jump. Ha! First try. First try. That was not editing magic, everybody. That was actually the first try. I'm going to see if I can do it again. I doubt, because I did try this several times during our last raid and did not succeed. Alright, 2 in a row. The Plane of Sky has a lot of other stuff going on with the keys that also had to be changed in order to make it a lot more casual friendly. If you recall from Project 1999, your keys are the result of a weird turn-in thing where you have to defeat all of the trash mobs on an island, and then after the boss of that island, you turn in the key piece to Siren to get a key, which you have to leave on a corpse. So Island 1 ends up just being littered with corpses. Well, in Project Quarm, they enabled the key ring. So once you use a key in Plane of Sky, it's as if you always have it on your cursor. So I've been all the way through to Island 8 of Sky, so I will never need the keys for it again. Thank you, Secrets. That makes things so much better. Plus, it means that Island 1 actually looks like it's designed to look and not like a graveyard. There is also an NPC on Island 1 that is a vendor, and Apparently, there is a way to exploit a vendor in an instance zone that secrets would prefer not to have. So she moved the Keymaster vendor outside of the plane. So if you are going to Plane of Sky for your first time, make sure that you purchase everything that you need outside. Also sells your Box of the Void, Jade Inlaid Coffins, etc. So it's a really convenient vendor right here, and it's also a huge pain in the butt to get up here if you're not awesome like me to make that jump on the first try. So a lot of people, especially pure casters with Gate, have been binding themselves right here. And I was going to go into a little bit more detail about the specific instances and dungeons and the meta, especially the different Plane of Sky meta, which is a combination of how the mechanics are slightly different on Quarm and the fact that it's still classic and the level cap is 50. It is very difficult to get through Plane of Sky without either A, an entire army of level capped characters, or B, exploiting a couple of really unique tricks. So I'll probably be making individual videos for the different instances and raid bosses that I think are worth entirely different videos. And that being said, we have a little bit of time before my next attempt at Sky, so I'm going to make sure that I have everything ready and see if anybody needs any ports over to North Row. So until next time, bye!